Avenue from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net. And together, we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
What you got to say? Say, hey, hey, hey. What you got to say? Hollywood, Hollywood swinging. Hollywood swinging. I remember not too long ago, I went to a theater and I saw the Cool in the Gang show.
I'm Tavis Smiley, and we are thrilled to have you tuned into our program today. And I've been looking forward to this because I have seen Willie Tyler and Lester many, many times, of course, over the course of my career and my life. But I did not know that ventriloquism can be traced back to ancient Egypt. Wasn't aware of that. We're going to get a history lesson about that in a moment. And I am delighted to have the foremost modern-day black ventriloquist join us live in studio right now. Willie Tyler and Lester, how are you two today?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine also.
It's good to see you. Good to see you both. Let me just start with this. We have an hour, so I want to get into the backstory of your occupying this space, how the two of y'all connected, and how the two of you came together. But I want to start with that history lesson that I said moments ago. In preparing for our conversation, I was doing some research, of course, and didn't realize, I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, so many of the great achievements, so many of the great endeavors started on the African continent. But give us all a history lesson about ventriloquism.
Well, ventriloquism is basically in a lot of areas like witch doctors used to use it. You know, what we call speaking from the belly. Ventriloquism basically is called speaking from the belly, talking without moving your lips. And they would use that to supposedly send some sounds to someplace else that they weren't coming from. And that's basically where that particular thing came from. But it's basically speaking from the belly, but it's not speaking from the belly. It's just the idea you don't see your lips move. So they say it's coming from the belly kind of situation.
Yeah. How did this become your lane?
What happened was we had gotten a TV set, black and white TV set in Detroit where I grew up. And is that
whose phone is that? Is that yours or or Lester's?
Oh boy, hang on, Les.
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay.
There we go.
Hopefully that's.
It's live radio. It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Let me help you on this. Let me help
probably
you.
Turn it off then.
There we go. You were saying though. I asked how this became your lane.
It was like a situation where we got our TV set, and it was a black and white TV set back in those days, and they had rabbit ears. You know what the rabbit ears
Oh,
on,
yeah,
on top
absolutely.
of the TV set.
Absolutely.
Right. And I seen a gentleman on there by the name of Paul Winchell and Jerry Mahoney. He had a weekly show at that time. And every week I'd watch the show, and also on the Ed Sullivan Show they had ventriloquists too. And I watched the show, and I was fascinated on how he made his little character, Jerry Mahoney, come to life. And it just fascinated me. So very next day, what I did was I took my sister's discarded doll and took a coping saw and cut the mouth out and used that as a figure, ventriloquist figure, right? And what happened was and so I wanted to be a ventriloquist. I took a straight pen, a string, and a rubber band, and jerry rigged it in such a way the mouth would rock back and forth. So I used that for a while. And in Detroit, they had a thing. You know what Showtime at the Apollo is?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Of course, yeah.
Now, Showtime at the Apollo, they had a particular section of the show where they had amateurs. Amateurs. So in Detroit, they had theaters around town there, right? Right. And what happened was like...
This is radio, so if you're tuned in and you're watching us on any of our socials, on our app, on the website, on our YouTube channel, you can actually see what I'm looking at. But it's just fascinating to be this close to Willie, Tyler, and Lester, and to watch this conversation between the two of them. So forgive me for laughing here and there. It's what I'm seeing in front of me.
Yeah, I just don't get out much.
Yeah.
So what happened was the situation. They had amateur shows. And you've seen at Showtime at the Apollo when they had amateurs.
Sure.
Those audiences, when you came out, if you weren't good, you know, the audience, you know.
Sandman to come get you.
Yeah. So what happened was like with the hook.
Yeah, with the hook.
With the hook.
You got it.
And so, but they had them in Detroit too. They had a movie. They show a Class 3 movie, and then they would have the amateur show. Then after that, they would have the professionals come out. And I remember one of the professional shows that I was part of. Being an amateur though, but it was Hank Ballard and the Midnighters. They were the ones that were the stars of the show. But what happened was like I would put a little act together with this little doll, you know, and the audience, they understood basically when you walked out. They understood a shake dancer. We called them shake dancers back in those days. You know, this is the amateur portion, or harmonica player, or a singing group. Then they introduced me, and I walked out with this little doll. And it's almost like that commercial, E.F. Hutton. Yeah. People walk out, everybody would go, yeah.
You got quiet, huh?
And they would freeze, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't have an act. Yeah. I'd go out and just talk. And at the very end, they would line the amateurs up, and the MC would put his hand over each person's head.
For the applause.
Yeah, for the applause and stuff like that. When they got to me, it's like they didn't know what to do. The audience didn't know what to do. So I'd go home. I didn't want to do it anymore, you know what I mean? And then 2 weeks later, I did it again. Glutton for punishment. Yeah. So I went back and I kept doing it. I kept losing. I kept doing it, and then eventually I started winning. Yeah. So it's like a situation where it worked out nicely.
Hold that thought. When we come forward, I want to talk about what changed and that allowed you to eventually start winning with Lester. Our guests are Willie, Tyler, and Lester. He is the foremost ventriloquist in Black America, certainly, and we're honored to have him on Tavis Smiley right now.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac, perfected like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat intellect since '92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Deal it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bussin', truckin'. Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range. On a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with SCHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience, temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked!
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, Black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
He is the foremost ventriloquist that our community has ever produced. And somebody once said that every race of people ought to be judged by the best they've produced and not by the worst. And when it comes to ventriloquism, he is certainly the best our community has ever produced. His name, of course, is Willie Tyler, and Lester is his partner. And I'm delighted to have them both in studio. So you were telling me, thank you. So you were telling me, Willie, before that break, that you were on stage in Detroit. And you were losing. You went home and said, I don't want to do this again. You tried it again. So there are 2 or 3 questions I want to ask. When you told yourself that this ventriloquism thing wasn't working for you and you thought about, you were pondering giving up, what brought you back?
What happened was like each time I did it and I lost, then it was so close to me that I said, I don't really want to do this anymore. So I'd go home. Then I watched the ventriloquists on TV the next week and stuff like that, and I saw how good they were, and so I said, well, maybe I'll try it again, you know. So it was like in between 2 weeks or something like that passed each time, so I'd go back and try it again. But each time I did it, I didn't want to do it anymore until I got home and watched the TV show. They said, maybe I'll try it again, you know. So I kept doing it. And I remember it was like first time I won first prize. First prize was like $6. Second prize was $4. And
$6 for first prize. Woo! A lot of money back then, huh?
Yeah. And so it's like a situation where I'll never forget, because it was almost Christmas, and I was out on stage, and the lights were up, and he was holding hands over everybody. His head, and all of a sudden, when they got to me, and they put their hand over my head and my little figure's head, and the people went, "Yay!" Yeah. And the chills just went. And that did it. That sucked me in. I was a ventriloquist from then on.
Yeah. When you were initially doing this ventriloquism thing and it wasn't working, and you would go home and you'd watch the folk on TV, the white folk on TV who were really good at this. What were you needing to perfect? What were you working on to get to eventually start winning those first place prizes?
Well, see, I seen them on television, and they were getting laughed. The guy was getting laughs.
Right.
You know, it was Paul Winchell, Jerry Mahoney, but they were getting laughs. So I said, well, and another thing too, I would do variety shows in school also, and also it's like I wanted to be a ventriloquist, so I would at home. I'd be, because I come from a family of 10. It's 10 of us. And my mom would be
10 in my family too.
Yeah,
I'm one of 10. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And it's like I would be in the little off the living room there when my mom was ironing. I'd go in there, and I'd rehearse. You know, when you're rehearsing, it's okay with you. You know, when you're rehearsing, because you're saying the same thing over and over again.
Sure.
But when somebody's listening to that, you know, they have to listen to that. You know, over and over saying the thing. So my mom said, she said, son, can you take a break? Can you just take a break for a while? That kind of situation. But a lot of people in the neighborhood, they knew I was a ventriloquist. And when I would walk down the street, they would kind of look at me kind of strange. You know, they would look out the corner of their eye.
I've been intending to ask you about this, so I wanted to ask this anyway. So let me just ask. So there are a lot of things that the good white folk can do that they can get away with. But you do certain things in black, other black folk look at you a little strange.
Oh, yeah,
so here you are, a black man walking around. I'm sorry, Lester, I don't mean to offend you.
It's
here,
okay,
sir.
that's okay.
I don't mean to offend you, Lester.
It's only because it's true.
Yeah. But when you're a black man, you walk around with your partner on your lap.
Yeah.
How did initially? I mean, now you got the last laugh because you've been hugely successful as a ventriloquist. But when you first started this, how were black people looking at you?
It was sort of strange because I had my sister's discarded. That's the one. My sister's discarded doll. That's the one I cut the mouth out.
Cut the mouth out. Yeah.
That was sort of strange. The doll was a doll, and I'm walking around with this doll and pulling the string and stuff like that. So that would
little weird.
Yeah, people would go across. They'd go across the street to avoid you.
Yeah,
that kind of situation.
That might freak somebody out a little bit.
Even my brothers, they would say, we thought it was kind of strange.
Yeah.
Growing up and doing that kind of stuff, but eventually when I started doing other things and winning talent shows, so they sort of brought them into the fold.
Yeah. So let me just ask about Lester specifically.
Yes, sir.
And I feel weird talking about Lester as if he can't hear me sitting here looking at me right now.
Yeah, I'm just looking.
Yeah.
I'm looking on.
Yeah. So from the very beginning, was it always Lester? Or when did Lester become your man? When did Lester become your partner?
Okay, the first Lester came along. There were 3 Lesters.
Okay.
Because there was small Lester, medium Lester, large Lester. Now, when I got rid of the doll, my sister's doll, and I went to a magic shop and bought a store-bought doll with a little string that you pull. But then I looked in Popular Mechanics magazine. They had an ad, Learn Ventriloquism. And her name is Thelma Baldwin, my auditorium teacher. I really think she's helped me be successful because I found this ad in Popular Mechanics magazine.
What's that word you use? Auditorium teacher? What'd you say?
Auditorium. Well, back then we called them auditorium teacher.
Okay.
It's like when you go in and they have plays and stuff like that. And
I got you. Okay.
You know, and so I would go. I'd take the character and do shows there too. So she knew I wanted to be a ventriloquist. But I found this ad in Popular Mechanics magazine.
Right.
And I showed it to her, and it was just outside of Detroit, Grosse Pointe Woods. That's the name.
I know Grosse Pointe, sure.
Yeah, so she took me out there, and we met the lady who made figures and stuff like that, and so I got the course. I got the course, the ventriloquist course, and she made a character up for me. And one was the first Lester. Wasn't called Lester when I got him.
Yeah.
You know, and the strange thing about the name Lester.
I'm about to ask, you're thinking like I am. I was going to ask, how did he end up being Lester, or called Lester?
Called Lester's like when I got the first Lester. The first character, first Lester.
Sure.
And then I took him home, and I have a name for him, so I put him in the corner. And every day I came home from school, because I delivered newspapers and stuff like that. So when I finally got home, and I look at him when I walked in the door and said, what does he look like? And I look at him, I couldn't think of a name. And then what happened? My brother came home from school one day, and he said, hey, Willie, I got him. Name him Lester. I said, why do you want to call him Lester? He goes, there's a guy in study hall. His name is Lester, and he looks just like him. So Lester came into being. That's how I came into being. No last name, just Lester.
And it stuck all these years.
Yes, indeed.
No last name, just Lester. When you were creating this partner, this character, Lester, what did you have in mind? I know, and the audience knows what we've seen you do over the years, you and Lester together. But what did you have in mind when you were creating this character, Lester?
Well, he wanted to be. He was like, the character Lester was like a friend in the neighborhood. He was like my next door neighbor, because there's a next door neighbor guy who's kind of funny all the time. So he was like basically. I molded him into like a friend of mine who lived next door kind of situation. So he was like sort of funny. And then would come up with funny sayings and stuff like that. So that's how his personality came into being.
Yeah. Now, the thing about ventriloquism to me is, and you made this point earlier, that it's one thing to get the mechanics down. We'll talk about the mechanics in a moment of how one masters the mechanics in their classes that teach you how to be a great ventriloquist. So we'll talk about the mechanics in a second. But it seems to me, certainly as I've followed your career over these many decades, the one thing you do, in fact, have to master if you want to get laughs from an audience is the comedy piece. So you wanted to be a ventriloquist, and you figured out how to do that part after cutting your sister's doll in part. you figured that out. But ouch, exactly. You figured that out. But that doesn't mean you're a born comedian. So so tell me how you worked out the show, the run of show, the comedy part of it. How did you master the comedy piece?
Well, it's the idea of like I kind of knew there's some kind of humor in me, because one time I was in school and the teacher was asking about the weather and stuff like that, what comes out of the sky. She said, "What is the stuff that comes out of the sky that's like ice?" And I said, "Hell." And the class laughed.
Mm-hmm.
So she says, "Hail." Yeah,
that's
so,
Hail. Yeah, I
right.
got you.
But when they laughed,
mm-hmm.
in my mind, I'm saying, "Wait a minute." I'm saying to my mind, they're laughing.
Mm-hmm.
I said something that was funny.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I started, putting the stuff together to Lester to be the funny guy.
Mm-hmm.
I would be the straight man, and he would be the funny man.
Mm-hmm. And why did you decide to do it that way? Why are you the straight guy and he's the funny guy versus the other way around?
Well, because of the way he looked.
Mm-hmm.
He's a small guy.
Yeah.
It's like a comedy team, Bud Abbott, Lou Costello. So the little short fat guy was the funny guy,
Mm-hmm.
and the other guy was the straight guy. So I'm supposed to be the one in control, and he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's just he leaps before he looks kind of situation, and that was his personality.
Yeah. When you started perfecting your craft, and you're playing in front of black audiences in particular, and here's why I'm saying this, because you mentioned the Apollo earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I've been so fortunate over the course of my career to talk to every major comedian out there.
Mm-hmm.
And two things about that always jump out at me. One, every comedian worth his or her salt will tell you to a person, at least those persons I've interviewed, that Pryor was the GOAT. Everybody knows that Pryor was the GOAT, which is the greatest. Everybody acknowledges that. But the point I'm getting to is that when you're playing an audience with a bunch of black folk, it ain't the same as playing also with a bunch of white people.
That's true.
At the Apollo, to your point, they will come. The same man will come up with the hook and pull you off the stage.
That's right.
If you are not funny,
That's
if
right.
you're not delivering on whatever your act is.
That's very
So you
true.
get in front of black folk, and they've worked hard all week, and they've decided to give you that money for dinner and a show. You better make them Negroes laugh. So when a black man walks out on stage with Lester sitting on his lap, give me a sense of how you developed this routine that actually made black people laugh.
Well, it's the idea of talking about particular things that happen in the neighborhood, and so they could relate to that. But basically, when you a black audience, of course, is different than other audiences because what happened, even with singers, because with singers, I tell this story one time. I went to the Apollo, and I was with this singer. He was from Detroit, and he had a regional record. It wasn't like a hit all over the place, and it was big in New York. So he came out and he sang this song, and he was singing. He walked to the edge of the stage, and he reached in his pocket and just pulling his handkerchief out. And all the girls ran up to the edge of the stage, reaching for the handkerchief. He threw it out there, and they fought over it. They fought over the handkerchief. Now, fast forward. Like about 6 months later, we're back at the Apollo again. And he's there also. So he comes out and he's singing that song. He's singing it and he pulls it out of his pocket. He walks to the edge of the stage. He throws it out there and they threw it back. So it's a situation. Singers when they were at the Apollo, a lot of singers were kind of nervous when they were at the Apollo because it was like a situation where if they didn't like the song, they would let them know. I don't like that. Sing something else. We always have hecklers, and it helped me a great deal because when people heckled Lester, then we would make up stuff to talk to say to them back. Because at the Apollo, if it wasn't like it would be like a six shows a day or something like that. When it's like Thanksgiving and Christmas or something like that, starting at 1:00 in the afternoon. But if it wasn't a holiday, then the audiences they could stay for another show. So if you came out and you told material, you told jokes and stuff like that, they knew the punchlines. So we had to jump around. So we had to play a game with them and not say the same things.
Be more conversational.
Right, because they knew the joke.
They knew the jokes.
And they what would they say when you said a joke? That's not funny. People would shout out in the audience.
So Lester, let me just ask you, Lester, what is it like when you're on stage and you're being heckled by a bunch of black folk? What's that feel like? How do you process your way through that, Lester?
Well, shoulders is always been in the sawdust. I love that. I love being in shoulders.
Yeah, but you don't. But you can't like being heckled, Lester.
No, I'm used to it. No, but we were used to it because even like when we're doing those particular things at the amateur shows and stuff, we had hecklers then too. So it was like a situation where you got that. You get that guy. When you get a black audience, a lot of time you get hecklers. You would always get hecklers, and so you had to have with little ways of coming back at them.
So you develop some great one-liners that work all the time?
Yeah, sometimes you just make up stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes stuff wasn't really funny, but at the time, the timing was right. When you say it, the people would crack up and they would laugh.
Yeah.
And then you move on to something else. But they always try to get you goat.
Yeah.
You know?
When we come forward, I want to talk about the mechanics of how one becomes a great ventriloquist. As I said earlier, ventriloquism goes all the way back to ancient Egypt. And so Willie, Tyler, and Lester got it honestly. We'll put it that way, since it goes back to ancient Egypt. But I'm curious as to when. Let me ask this right quick, and we'll come forward. When did you know, after all those early failings, and then finally you're starting to find your stride, you're starting to find your groove, you create Lester 1, Lester 2, Lester 3, now you're off and running. When did you know that you could make a career, that you were good enough and the audiences liked you enough to make a career out of this, as you have now for decades? Mm-hmm. When did you know you were good enough to make a career out of it?
What happened was the first Lester came along when I was about 12 years old, that little small Lester. Mm-hmm. Then when I was like 16, because I'd grown out of the small Lester, and I got the medium Lester. Mm-hmm. Then I went in the Air Force. I went in the Air Force, and I stayed in there 4 years and got out and went back to Detroit. Mm-hmm. And I still had the medium Lester. Now, what happened was we got time for. So what happened was
hold that. I'm looking at my clock here. So you're back in Detroit after being in the Air Force, and you still at that moment have medium Lester. We'll pick the story up there when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. New York's Attorney General has rested her civil fraud case against former President Trump with testimony by his daughter. Attorney General Letitia James claimed that Ivanka Trump benefited personally from grossly inflated numbers for her dad's businesses. Ivanka testified she wasn't involved in putting financial statements together, but emails revealed her acknowledging them. Former President Trump's lawyers present their defense Monday. A man once accused of the beating and rape of a jogger in 1989 will soon be on the New York City Council. African-American Yusuf Salam was one of the Central Park 5 men detained for the crime that received national headlines and a full-page newspaper ad from Donald Trump calling for their execution. The men were eventually exonerated by DNA evidence. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Starting off in Long Beach, got a minor wreck on the 405 northbound at Cherry Avenue with a couple of vehicles in your left lane, so look for some slowing there approaching. Up ahead in Inglewood, 405 northbound, still very heavy from Century Boulevard up to Santa Monica Freeway. We had a stalled vehicle 405 north at the 10 West connector. Slowing on the 10 westbound, Western Avenue to Robertson.
Make your next lunch a lunch combo from Buffalo Wild Wings. Choose from wings, street tacos, and more. Head to Buffalo Wild Wings or order online at buffalowildwings.com at participating locations for a limited time, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Price and participation vary by location. Taxes extra. See menu for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A bad night for both of LA's NBA teams, and both of them are still looking for their first road win this season. The Lakers were spanked in Houston last night. They lost by 34. Anthony Davis did not play. Muscle spasms in his left hip. His status for Friday's game at Phoenix is uncertain. The Lakers are 0-5 on the road. The Clippers lost by 7 at Brooklyn. They committed 6 of their 15 turnovers in the fourth quarter. 12 points and 5 assists for James Harden. The Clippers are 0-4 on the road. Major League Baseball now has 2 black managers, Dave Roberts of the Dodgers and Ron Washington of the Angels. The 71-year-old Washington was hired by the Angels on Wednesday. Washington was Atlanta's third base coach the past 6 seasons. He managed the Texas Rangers from 2007 to 2014. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Your floors can go from clean to dirty fast. From juice spills, whoops, to muddy paw prints, to little sticky finger marks. Good thing your Swiffer WetJet works fast too. Swiffer WetJet easily cleans everyday messes as quick as they happen. The next mess is right around the corner. So grab your Swiffer WetJet and just spray, push, all clean.
What do you mean he's not coming in? This is our busiest time.
The mixologist at Claude's Bar is moving to Manhattan.
I'm already down 2 bar backs. No one's manning front of
Now he needs an equally cosmopolitan replacement.
How am I going to find a new bartender before New Year's Eve?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
We are talking with the foremost ventriloquist in Back America. His name is Willie Tyler and Lester. You've seen them countless times on all kinds of TV shows. Before I talk about moving to L.A. from Detroit in 1972 and the career really starting to take off, let me go back to Detroit. So you were saying you've been in the Air Force. You went back to Detroit. At that time, you still had medium Lester, though.
The medium Lester.
Finish that story for me. We'll go forward.
So what happened, I had the medium Lester, and so when I got out of the service, and I think it was the summer, and there's a place called Idlewild, Michigan. It was like a resort area. Mm-hmm. And back that time, it was a black resort area up there. So somehow or another, I was able to go up there to do 2 weeks for the summer. But when I went up there and I did the shows, and the people who, the powers that be up there said, can you stay the rest of the summer? So I wound up staying the rest of the summer. Now up there in the summertime, black people would come for the summer. In the wintertime, there was hunting season. People go and hunt. But up there, so what happened was like some of the Gordy people were up there, and the Funk Brothers were in the band.
Oh yeah.
And during the summer,
the Motown Funk Brothers, yeah.
Yeah, so they were up there for the summer, and we were in a review, and dancers and all that stuff, and the Funk Brothers and the band and all that. So what happened was like that's how Barry Gordy got wind of me being up there, because they talked about it when I got back. When I got back in town, they said, we're going to have a meeting. Would you come and do something for us? And they had meetings on Wednesdays. They had a Wednesday meeting, and I went in and did about 3 minutes with Lester. And then they said, okay.
At Hitsville?
At Hitsville. Wow. And so they said, basically, they said, okay, well, thank you. And then I left, and I went home. And by the time I got home, I got a call from him, says, welcome to the family. So I wound up signing with Motown. I was with Motown officially for 8 years, traveling with the Motown Review and emceeing the shows, and also
right
all over the
take
place.
Take me back to
another thing about the size of Lester.
Right.
Now what happened was I was doing the shows with Motown, and we were doing larger venues like the Fox Theater and the Carter Barron Theater, which is gone. That was a bad place in Washington D.C. The sound was bad. Anyway, it's just a situation where people couldn't see Lester from up in the balcony.
Oh.
You know. So I
you
said,
had to increase the size.
Right. So I went back to the lady in Rose Point Woods. I said, "Can I get a larger Lester?" You know. So she made a larger Lester. So when I got the larger Lester and went to Motown, and I started doing shows there. The people at Motown, they looked at the new Lester, and they say, "We like the other one better." But what happened was he had to be. Things had to be done to him. He didn't have glasses on, so I put the glasses on him. Yeah. Then I put the big fro on him, so it changed his look. Yeah. So they got used to. People in Motown got used to it.
They got used to it. But take me back to that era. I mean, Berry Gordy is a genius in so many ways.
Indeed,
Mr. Chairman, as I call him.
Yes, sir.
But what was it like when you get a phone call from Berry Gordy to basically come to his office at Hitsville to audition for him, and then he calls you back and welcomes you to the family? So you're on the road with all of these great Motown acts, and you're sort of emceeing. You and Lester are basically emceeing these shows. What was that experience like back then?
Well, see, I did. Now, basically, when I went to the meeting to do the 3 minutes and stuff like that, and I finished and went back. Now his representative called me.
Sure.
You know, basically, and then, but what happened was and I got to meet all Motown artists when we were traveling on the road and stuff like that. And Marvin Gaye what would Marvin Gaye would say? Marvin Gaye would come over to me all the time. No, he would come to me when Lester wasn't around. He'd come and he said, "Lester baby." Marvin Gaye would call me Lester baby because I was associated with Lester. But that's all he would say. He didn't say that and walk away. You know,
just Lester baby.
Yeah, and he didn't sing it either.
Well, hey, a shout out for Marvin Gaye is a shout out for Marvin Gaye.
Yes, indeed.
Any way you get it.
Yes.
But what was it like, though, during that era, touring the stage with all these great acts?
It was
during the States, I should say.
Yeah, it was history was being made, you know. Yes. It was being made then. Yeah. And back then, in those days, it was like a little Stevie Wonder. Now, we traveled on the bus. Now, when we traveled on the bus, not Stevie, though.
Sure.
Because he was like, he had a mentor who traveled with him, and they were in a station wagon. He would travel in a station wagon, and the Four Tops always they would travel in a station wagon. So when we left the town or something like that, we didn't see them until the next town we got to. But on the bus, it was like Diana Ross, Supremes, and Temptations. Not the Four Tops, but the Contours. Do you love me? Yeah. and the band. The band was there also. Yeah. So it's self-contained. So we would get there, check in the hotel in the mornings if we had to do shows at night, and check out late at night and get back on the road again.
But that obviously that touring with Motown and all those greats obviously gave you a sense that black people were responding to your ventriloquism, that they liked it. I mean, you're doing city after city after city. Ain't nobody booing you in Lester, so you had to know then that you had something to work with here.
Well, yeah. No, they were boo too. They were boo also.
They boo every now and then?
It wasn't like it wasn't all the time.
Yeah.
But
that ain't funny.
That's right. But they would do that to singers too.
Yeah, sure.
If they were singing a song that they didn't like, you know, they would do that. But that kind of situation. But history was being made then, but we didn't know it. You know, Motown we were traveling, and all of a sudden it was a situation where they were making hit records all over the place, and then the Motown people would go overseas. Yeah. You know, the Supremes would go over there and work over there, and of course the Beatles would do a lot of. They would do a lot of songs. They would do some of the songs. Let's see, I wish I could think of the lady's name. She wrote Money. Best things in life are free. You can give it to the birds and bees. I leave money. But she was in Motown. She made that. She started still making money from that hit. Money. But the Beatles did that song and stuff like that.
They did some covers, no question about it.
Yeah, they covered a lot of Motown songs. Yeah. And it was a situation where it was like history was being made, and you were saying, "Wow!" When you look back on it, you didn't know it because you were so busy doing it.
Right.
But you look back on it and say, "That was."
So eventually, Barry Gordy, you meet him at Hitsville in Detroit. He eventually packs things up and moves to L.A.
Mhm.
Brings the company Motown to L.A.
Mhm.
In '72, you come to L.A.
Mhm.
And as I recall, you were on Laugh-In.
Laugh-In,
Is it fair to say that Laugh-In is a show that put you and Lester out there nationally, that made you pretty famous?
Pretty much so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was like it was only it was the very last season of Laugh-In,
Right.
and it was a situation where once a week we were in little skits all over the place, so that helped, and everybody got to know Lester. They got to know Lester so much that they even put a Lester doll on the market because the people knew
Yeah.
Lester, and
Yeah.
Lester I was all over the place, all over the place. That was nice. Those are the days, my friend.
Yeah.
But
So what's it like then when you have come from Detroit? Things are starting to take off for you, and now you're appearing on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. You're doing Merv Griffin. You're doing all these big shows back then. But again, you are an African American. You're a black ventriloquist. You're black. Lester's black. How we talked earlier about black folk at the Apollo and elsewhere, and on the Motown Review tour. Now, what's it like when you're hitting these major national talk shows, Carson, Griffin, and others, Mike Douglas, and you're talking to a predominantly white audience? How did you make that work?
But it's the idea. It's sort of like when I was looking at the ventriloquists on the Ed Sullivan Show,
Right.
and the ones that what I grew up with,
Mhm.
Paul Winchell and Jerry Mahoney.
Sure.
So I kind of learned the humor from them,
Mm-hmm.
and so they were the audiences that they had,
Right.
you know, that made people made people laugh through that. So I took a little bit of that what they had and put it into my act, and it worked out nicely. Because again, you know, it's a situation where we worked at Copacabana in New York with the Temptations. We were there with the Supremes, and the Copacabana in New York was if you got there, wow.
That's high cotton, as they
Yeah,
say.
it wasn't a gigantic place.
Yeah.
You know, when we got there, it's like it was down in the basement. It was down in the basement, and it was like a situation where I don't know how many people. Didn't hold a lot of people, but
Yeah.
it was a nice place to be.
When we come forward, I want to talk about, I mentioned earlier, the mechanics. Ventriloquism, as I said earlier, can be traced all the way back to ancient Egypt, but I am curious as to the mechanics of how one becomes a great ventriloquist. Who better to ask than Willie, Tyler, and Lester? We'll do that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Oh, this cold.
Honey?
Honey?
Honey, you need DayQuil Severe Honey.
DayQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honeylicious taste, because life doesn't stop for a cold.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Ugh, now I'm getting a cold.
Honey.
Try DayQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu relief. DayQuil Severe with honey flavor. The daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, honeylicious, power through your day medicine.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? Because only the Sleep Number Climate 360 smart bed lets you each sleep up to 13 degrees cooler or warmer on either side, while you both sleep at your ideal level of firmness, comfort, and support, your Sleep Number setting. And now our all-new next-gen smart beds have temperature benefits, so you sleep better night after night. And now, during our Veterans Day sale, save 40% on the Sleep Number Special Edition smart bed. Ends Monday. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com.
November is National Runaway Prevention and Homeless Youth Awareness Month, and the Sanctuary of Hope is shining a light on the situations that cause youth to run away or face a housing crisis. In LA County, nearly 3,000 youth are homeless on the streets each night. All month long, the Sanctuary of Hope will lead activities throughout LA County to inform and mobilize calls for action, and you can help. For more info, go to www.thesoh.org. That's www.thesoh.org.
King C. Gillette knows you're dedicated to your barbershop routine, but how do you maintain the beard hair you already have? The King C. Gillette Beard Thickener helps to reduce patchiness and strengthens hair's resilience to breakage. Apply the King C. Gillette Beard Thickener daily to see a thicker and fuller beard in just 14 days. It's highly scented with King C. Gillette's signature scent. Just trim, wash, and soften. With King C. Gillette.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
So Willie Tyler and Lester are our guests in this hour. He is, of course, the foremost black ventriloquist in the nation. I'm not sure I should tell his age, but he's now 83. And he's still doing this.
I'm not. Lester's not.
Lester's not 83,
not.
Just Willie is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's now, Willie, as Lester said, is now 83. Still doing this, and I wasn't a math major in college, but I think you told me earlier in this conversation you started doing this at 10.
Mm-hmm.
You're 83. 83 minus 10 equals 73. If my math is correct, you've been doing this 73 years?
Well, yeah, long time. That's a long time.
Man.
Long time, yeah.
Really
long time, yeah.
Yeah. And you still enjoy it, I assume.
I enjoy it. You know, a lot of, you probably noticed, Tavis, that are basically entertainers, you know, who, when they're doing live performances, entertainers normally, they don't retire.
Yeah.
They keep doing it because there's something about coming out in front of an audience. If you're a singer, if you're a comedian, and you get that rush from the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Some nights the shows might be good, some nights they might be, but you feel good afterwards. When you come off, you feel good, and that's exuberating.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's what you were born to do.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, so just give me some pointers. So there are classes that teach folk how to do this, how to be great ventriloquists. But like, what are some of the basics, some of the mechanics that you have to master to be a great ventriloquist?
What's the idea of, like, it's basically talking without moving your lips.
Right.
And I think with me, it was easier for me to do it because I had like a buck teeth and I had an overbite.
Uh-huh.
And when you have an overbite, it's for some reason it's easier to be able to do the ventriloquist voice with an overbite.
All right.
You know, because sometimes you see ventriloquists, they're doing it, and they clench their teeth.
Yeah.
When the character talks, and that's not normal because people tend to look at him. But if you got an overbite, like Lester say, if you'll count to 3, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, as opposed to doing this.
Yeah.
Now this is the way we do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now if other people would go, everybody would go like this.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, yeah. You know, that throws everybody off.
I see the difference. Yeah, I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew that an overbite could help you in your ventriloquism?
Yeah, that's one of
I just thought about that. For those of you who have an overbite, I think Willie Tyler just gave you another career option.
That's right. Well, it's good at biting apples.
Yeah.
Apples,
Good for biting apples and good for being a ventriloquist if you have an overbite. When we come forward, our remaining moments with Willie Tyler and Lester, we'll talk about this documentary called Hello, Dummy. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, can potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
I'm Tavis Smiley. He's Willie Tyler and Lester, our guest. This just a few minutes left. You were just telling me a story. I might as well tell it on the air. It's a great story. You were telling me the day you were at Motown and little Michael Jackson is running around. And what happened?
Yeah, he knew I was a ventriloquist, and I was over there for a meeting or something to that effect. So I didn't have Lester. So I was sitting on the couch there, and he comes in, and he sees me, and he like a lot of people, he look around. Like Lester's supposed to be behind the counter or something like that. Then he would say he didn't know. He says, "Where's the donkey?" Meaning like dummy.
Yeah.
But he would call him donkey.
Yeah.
I said, well, I would make up stuff like that. He's at home or he's at school or something like that. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say he was in the suitcase.
Yeah.
'Cause that,
that's funny. Any great Michael Jackson story is worth hearing, even all these years later. So you were. Sammy Davis Jr., who I think is one of the greatest. Speaking of Michael Jackson, who's a great entertainer, Sammy Davis Jr. was an amazing entertainer, one of the best ever, and was a triple threat: the song, the dance. I mean, Sammy Davis was amazing. You did a lot of opening for Sammy Davis in Vegas. He did a lot of Vegas stuff.
Vegas, Tahoe, Reno.
Right.
We call it the Silver Circuit.
Yeah.
But real quick, like. I'm glad I opened for Sammy for one time because I was in Lake Tahoe. I'll try to make this quick.
Right.
Lake Tahoe, and my manager then called me and said, "Come to the LA for an interview for a commercial. And we think you're going to get it, and then you can go back to Tahoe." But I flew in there, and I used to check Lester's body. And I flew back to Reno to go to Tahoe. Lester's body wasn't there.
Ooh.
So now I went to baggage claim, and they said, "Well, his body will be here at 8:30." But in Tahoe, the show is 8:30.
Yeah.
So anyway, I missed that first show with Sammy up there. So when I got up there and went in the room there, and his assistant Shirley said, "Well, he's in there. Go talk to him." I went in there to say something to him about why I missed the show. He says, "Don't worry about it. It happened to me. No big deal." And I'm glad it happened that particular night because it was horrors and it was employees' night.
Yeah.
So he did his time. He did, because he was great.
Oh, yeah.
It was great like that. And every night he'd come in the dressing room before I went on. He says, "You got the head, you got the body."
Yeah.
In jest.
Funny guy. So Hello Dummy is a documentary that you all are working on now. It'll be coming out soon. You've had quite the history as a black ventriloquist. What do you hope this documentary, Hello Dummy, will share with all of us about these 73 years of your doing this ventriloquism thing as only you can?
Well, it's the idea of it shows it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun, and it keeps you young. And when you're doing something that you enjoy doing, it pretty much keeps you young. 9 out of 10 times. 9 out of 10 times. 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
So it's like a situation where it's just fun. And you get to meet so many people. I've been to all 50 states. Traveled all over the place, and all 50 states I've been around.
Yeah.
Me too, Tavis, me too. Quote me.
Yeah, it caught me on that, yeah. I assume what you said earlier, I got 30 seconds here left. I assume what you said earlier about artists not retiring includes you. You're going to just do this until...
Yeah, you can keep doing it until you can't do it anymore because, it's like when people retire, they just mope. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
There's vamp.
Yeah. Well, I'm honored to have had you come in studio.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
We have watched you for so many years, and I have never had the opportunity to sit for an hour with an amazing and iconic African American ventriloquist. But to have Willie, Tyler, and Lester in studio has been a great delight. Thank you both.
Thank you,
Lester. Good to see you, my friend.
Nice seeing you. Take care.
All the best to you, sir. That's our program for today. Back here tomorrow. Nope, tomorrow's Friday, so tomorrow's the best of Tavis Smiley. Should be a great show tomorrow. Until then, thanks for tuning in today to Tavis Smiley, and as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Senate is aiming to try and pass a short-term bill to